What if you could become a better person, not by working harder, but by taking one small step a day? And not because you're a bad person now, but because there's something inside you that's ready for more. How to be a better person gives you one tiny step a day you can take to be the person you want to be. My mission? To help you live your best life. Hello there, and welcome to How to Be a Better Person. I'm Kate Hanley, your host and author of the book by the same name. Today we're talking about honesty, inspired by a great book I read recently called Would I Lie to You? By Judy Kettler. Specifically, I'm talking about how to find the right balance between being truthful and being kind, because it's not always easy to find that balance, and sometimes it feels downright impossible. Honesty is a really complex subject. On the one hand, we prize it, as evidenced by sayings like, honesty is always the best policy. I mean, it is important to be truthful and therefore trustworthy, but honesty just for honesty's sake can sometimes be mean. Like if a friend gets a new haircut that she clearly loves and you don't, saying, I think your hair looks terrible, really isn't the kind thing to do. On the other hand, sometimes being honest is the only kind thing to do, like telling someone they have spinach in their teeth. It's just that there are so many situations in between these two clear extremes where you can wonder what the right thing to do is. I'm guessing you've been there. That's why I especially loved one of the honesty principles Judy shares in her book, which is, say what you mean, but don't be a jerk. Just this week, my 12-year-old daughter had a situation where a kid at her school had developed a massive crush on her. Bless his heart, he does not yet know how to express his like in an appropriate way. In fact, some of the things he said to her are downright inappropriate. Just take my word on this. He had already asked her on 2 different occasions to be his girlfriend, and she dodged the question because it was awkward and she didn't want to be mean. But then he texted her one night to say he had something he wanted to ask her the next day at school. Thankfully, and I am so thankful for this, I don't take it lightly, she talked to me about what had been happening and how she realized she needed to tell him no once and for all. We were up late that night considering all the factors. He says inappropriate things. He makes her feel uncomfortable. He's not responding to her clues. He's also dealing with some tough stuff in his life. Then we talked through what she really wanted to say to him. She said a few different versions. There was one that was really mean and angry, which, since she was telling it to me in privacy with the intention of giving her more heated emotions an outlet, she was perfectly entitled to. Eventually, she landed on something she felt good about, and we went to sleep. The next day, he asked her to be his girlfriend again. She told him that she's not interested and that he's making her uncomfortable and to not ask her again. She said that someday someone would want to be his girlfriend, but it wasn't her and it wasn't now. These were all totally true statements, and yet they didn't get into what kind of a person he was or wasn't. And while I'm sure it was hard for him to hear, it was ultimately, hopefully, kind, because if she just yelled at him, he'd write her off as crazy and probably not do any self-reflection. And if she dodged him again, he wouldn't have an occasion to reevaluate his approach. I gotta say, as a mom, I'm super proud of her. It's not to say it wasn't agonizing or worrisome, and who even knows what the long-term shakeout will be. But in these moments, when you have a hard truth and you've got to figure out whether to tell it, and if so, how, it's so helpful to have some guidelines. And say what you mean, but don't be a jerk is a really helpful guideline to have. A couple other guidelines are to remember that there's a time and a place for everything. This was the subject of a previous episode. In her book, Judy shares the example of telling someone who's about to walk on stage to deliver a speech and confesses that they're nervous isn't the time to tell them that you don't think they're ready. That time would have been the day before, when they would have had time to practice more. Also remember that there's a gift in being clear. A lot of couching, explaining, and maybes will only confuse someone. Paradoxically, it's often the most empathetic thing to be direct, so long as you keep your directness focused on the facts and the situation, not the personality of the person you're talking to. So you say, this situation is making me uncomfortable, not, you're creepy. As for making sure that you're not being a jerk, here's a hint for you. If you feel tempted to say, hey, I'm just being honest, you're probably being a jerk. Other hints are using phrases like you always and you never. These generalizations are rarely true and are targeted more at the person's character than their actions. My coach, who taught me how to be a coach and was my mentor for years, explained it this way. Imagine that you're telling someone you trust and respect what's really going on. The way you would present it to that person is often the capital T truth and prevents you from getting into personal attacks, blame, or criticizing. I'm never going to be able to break down the entire subject of honesty in 5 minutes. If you want a deeper dive, pick up Would I Lie to You by Judy Kettler. It's available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. You can also ask her a question about a sticky situation where you aren't sure how or even if you should be honest by going to her website, which is judykettler.com. So you spell that JudyKettler.com. and look for the Ask the Honesty Coach link. That's it for me today. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for listening to How to Be a Better Person. Our theme song is Left for Deadish by Junior85. The podcast is mixed by Sound Advice Strategies. If you liked what you heard in this episode, share it with someone you think would like it too. Your voice matters. Also, How to Be a Better Person has an official newsletter that sends the past 7 episodes, a sneak peek of the week ahead, and one well-chosen meme to your inbox every Saturday morning. Sign up at beabetterpersonpodcast.com and click on Get Podcast News. I also love to hear from listeners. I love it. Send me an email by clicking on the Contact Kate button at beabetterpersonpodcast.com. Tweet me at Kate Han, Katehan, or find me on Instagram at Kate Hanley Author. I look forward to connecting with you.